Over the years, I've had the opportunity to share my testimony on various occasions, sometimes on a mission trip, on stage in front of a crowded church service, or with a few friends while conversing over a meal. With each share, the focus tends to lean towards a different trial in life, based on what's on my mind or what I think the current audience would respond to. No, I've never lied or made up any of these stories I've shared, but I also haven't been completely honest, because of fear. Fear of sharing too much. Fear affecting the relationships nearest to me. Fear of the consequences to come after sharing. Fear of being defined as weak or dramatic. It still scares me today to tell my story aloud, as listening to 1,000 stories is more therapy to me than sharing one of my own. I don't want to be treated, seen, or thought of differently after this video is over. This is hard for me to share, and it'll be hard to hear. It's a piece of my life I never thought I would spread beyond the walls of my mind. I don't share this to throw my own pity party, nor receive a single compliment, but to be open about life's battles. Before you begin, if you haven't previously, watch the video in the link provided to know what you're emotionally signing up for by continuing with this video to follow. It is emotional, it's long, and it doesn't begin to cover half of it. So grab a box of tissues and get comfy. Don't say I didn't warn you. May 2nd, 2002, I was woken at midnight to see a 3-month-old puppy sitting on the rug with a red bow on top of his head. After 17 years, we recently had to say goodbye to that precious part of our family. Most people consider their dog a part of their family. I considered him a part of me. Whether it was a good day or a bad day, he was waiting. Either in the corner of the couch against the armrest, or curled up on top of the big green chair, he was waiting. I'd make my way into the house from wherever it was I was coming from, and he'd meet me right at the door. No matter my emotion or facial expression, he could tell how I was feeling. He'd either be at the foot of the door, tail going crazy, jumping all over me, or would calmly let me carry him to wherever I wanted for a discussion of the day's events. He was one I could share the good and the bad with, yet wouldn't judge me for my emotions about the day's conflict. He stuck by my side, letting me know I'm not alone. He may not have understood what it felt like to be mocked, stared at, nor whispered about by anyone passing by, but he could read my emotions and body language better than anyone else, yet wouldn't gossip with the neighborhood what I shared to him, nor would his emotions be affected by my stories. He was my therapy dog, but no one knew it. Because of my skin condition, I never wore a bikini or a woman's one-piece swimsuit, shorts that showed an inch of my thigh, nor a shirt that revealed any of my stomach or my back. My school uniform skirts were down past my knees and up covering my belly button, when most girls were complaining about the fingertip length rule. I wore the same skirts from about 4th grade to senior year, unbuttoning the top button as I grew, after the school changed uniform companies to one that didn't sell the longer skirts. I'm pretty certain the majority of my female roommates looked at me strange when I struggled with changing underneath a nearby blanket, and still do to this day. I decided on photography as a major, not only because of the influences in my life, but also so that my work could be shared without anyone physically seeing the face behind the camera. Most of my young life, I stuck as close as I could to the leader of the group. Maybe it was a babysitter, a camp counselor, a teacher, or a guardian. In my mind, they were either being paid or had volunteered to protect me from any bullying that might have come. If I had earned $1 for every time I'd answer the question, "What happened to you? What's all over you?" or one along those lines, I'd be a millionaire. One of the hardest days for me was the first day of gym in 5th grade. We were told we had to change clothes in a locker room with 20 other gossiping elementary school girls. I lost it. I debated changing behind a shower curtain or wearing my gym clothes over my school uniform, but I couldn't do it. I pleaded, begged, and cried to the coach, informing her that I felt uncomfortable with changing in a crowded room. Everyone in my 5th grade class was looking down on me for fearing the locker room, and then 2 years after, as I talked and cried my way into the privacy of the bathroom stalls. I came home from school that afternoon, and he followed me to the room, curling up close to me on my bed, letting me know I'm not alone. Another day, I was headed back to Florida, making my way through airport security. You know, those tubes that spin around and take an x-ray looked me over and pointed out some of the areas of my body with larger freckles that had to get the pat down. The normal, I'm used to it. But this time the security worker who did the pat down didn't like what she felt, so she had one of her female co-workers come my direction. She wasn't too happy with it either, so the two of them brought me back to a closet to look further into it. They asked me to lift up a part of my shirt so they could really know I was pleading the truth, that my skin condition had me built differently. Not even a half-second glance at a centimeter of skin, and they both responded like I was the ugliest thing they'd ever seen, turning their heads as fast as they could, shielding their eyes and screaming at me to get out, get out, get out! That was the first time a non-family member or non-medical professional had seen me partially undressed, and that's why. I grabbed my suitcase as quick as I could, cried my way to my gate, wiped my tears enough to throw on a fake smile for the ticket agent, got to my window seat, and cried almost half the flight facing the wall. I'd hopped in the car like nothing had happened and sat in silence for the 45-minute drive home. We walked in the front door around 1 a.m. and he was waiting. I was so happy to see him again with a smile on my face. He wasn't jumping around like normal, but followed me to the couch, sitting as close to me as he could, wiping away the occasional tear until I went off to bed at almost 3. He was there with me when no one wanted to get within 10 feet of me the week VBS taught about the dangers of leprosy. When I was called a gorilla at Sunday school. When I was told I don't shower enough or shouldn't go shopping directly after a mud race. When I was informed I was hit with the plague, should rest while I'm covered in chicken pox, or should look into home remedies for freezing warts or popping pimples. When I had a demon taken out of me as a gentleman from South America put his fingertips on my forehead and shook as hard as he could. The now habit of being super close or far behind the car in front of me, stopped in traffic or at a red light, as to not line up windows with the car on either side of me, avoiding the inescapable stare. The countless times I've watched people switch seats on a plane, a movie theater, in a restaurant, decided to not go down the aisle, or hide their phone cameras as best they could directly after seeing me. And many, many more instances daily that I've been afraid to share with anyone. Most of these encounters filled me with tears, self-doubt, shame, or the occasional anger, all hidden underneath the fake smile. Late middle school or early high school, I was signed up for counseling. I wasn't interested in going, not knowing why I was going, nor what to expect. Like you can imagine, a leather couch and a coffee table with a full box of tissues in reach, almost caged in by bookcases of self-help books. We got to introduce ourselves, the counselor and I, before she began with the first question. Have you ever thought of suicide? I answered with a quick no, and she moved on to the next questions and activities. She didn't mention the S word again, so neither did I. In my mind, that question almost sounded like an advertisement or commercial. Have you seen this new dieting plan, activity, tourist destination, movie trailer? I was still stuck on that question that I barely paid attention to the rest of the meeting. The voice in my head began to run. Why haven't I thought of it before? Maybe it's an option. No one else in the world looks like me, and for every stranger who doesn't, I'm given a stare, a point, a whisper to a nearby family member or friend, a quick hidden phone snapshot, a rude comment, a card for a doctor in the area, or name of a lotion, diet, medication, or remedy to try. I'm mocked for the way I look, yet can't do anything about it, other than to trap myself indoors for the rest of my life. No one understands what it's like to be me, and I'm completely alone in the battle against any stranger who sees me for the first time, each and every day, no matter where I go. I could open up and share these stories with family or friends, but all that would do is make them feel sad for me. It means less heartache on us both, carrying my shame and self-doubt alone, instead of watching them cry for me, knowing they couldn't do a thing to change their comments or opinions. Sharing stories like these with a therapist only makes me feel awkward and uncomfortable, so you're watching me cry my eyes out from the other side of the room, with a pen and notebook in hand, not showing any emotion or relation. I would avoid the cost of skin cancer treatments, biopsies, surgeries, or testing I would eventually be paying for, whether it be in the next few years or several decades. Nor would those continue to be daily worries of mine. People wouldn't have to face their fear of seeing someone covered in a contagious skin disease, walking down the aisle, driving in a nearby lane, or sitting within 20 feet. I've been told I never get married, so no one would be missing out on a future wife or child. I have siblings, so the family would continue on. No one would be left without a sibling, a child, a cousin, or a grandchild. It would decrease the possibility of future generations facing the same feelings a skin condition has given me every day. My life seemed to be constructed around staying home as much as I could, with the least amount of interaction, eye contact, or communication with strangers who crossed my path, doing anything I could to avoid confrontation. I felt like I was almost forming a habit of being rude to anyone, just doing what I could to hide myself whenever I left the privacy of home. It seemed like there would be no downside, right? I didn't go through the plan as far as drafting the note, picking a place to finish the act, nor setting a time to get the deed done. But I was thinking of summer between high school and college, so that those who knew me would at least say I got something done in the few years I had. I wouldn't have built any relationships or loans that would have lasted beyond my college years. I'd be finished with high school, and it would be before college started, so I could disappear unnoticed without a school-wide assembly everyone is required to attend. I gave myself a few years to end relationships, check the last few things off my bucket list, plan how it was to be done, and hoping my thoughts changed. Of course, I took this idea to my four-legged therapist on multiple occasions, sometimes daily for weeks. It may sound crazy, but he would respond to my yes or no questions differently, without my prompting. Every time I got the same response. He loved me unconditionally for what was inside of me. He reminded me that I'm worthy of life. He showed me that I may feel set apart from everyone else in this world, but I am not alone. I shouldn't be focused on the negatives that will continue to come at me, no matter my appearance, but place my focus on the love that surrounds me. It seemed as though he was a constant in my life, keeping me balanced when everything else was at loose ends. Further into my high school years, getting closer to my final season, I gained a couple of role models, mentors, spiritual brothers and sisters who are each still a part of my life to this day. Day after day, they spent their time pouring into me, surrounding me with love, and giving me an appreciation for the gift of life. They saw me deserving enough to give me their time to spend it with me, leaving the door open if I wanted to share, and opening up to me fully, showing that they trusted me. They noted me as worthy enough to hold a service and plan a message weekly, knowing far in advance I was the only attendee that evening. They found me valuable enough to provide a homemade sweet treat following the service. They saw me deserving of lifting me up in prayer and sharing with everyone they knew before I was going into surgery, no matter how small of an operation it was. They had no idea of the mental battles I was fighting. I knew their love and care for me was and still is real, not based upon the future plans going through my mind. They did and continue to do these things and more solely because I was worthy. I am worthy. Most importantly, each one of them indirectly taught and showed me that he mentioned in each of the previous stories wasn't my dog. It was God. It is God. It will always be God. He will be with me through every situation, catching every tear that falls, not waiting on the couch a few hours later. He foresees my emotional reactions before I experience them and feels them deeper than I ever will, providing me with the time, space, friendships, and personal tips and tricks I need to recover. He created me beautifully in His sight and unconditionally loves me just as I am. He won't judge me based on the opinions of others nor how I react to them. If I left the earth on my own timing, He would be missing out on a daughter, His work of art. He died for me so I could live for Him. My dog might have died, but my God is surely alive. My best friend over the past 17 years stuck by my side, although he didn't fully fulfill the role I talked him up to be earlier. He pointed me to someone far greater who will go beyond fulfilling that role in my life. Now, this isn't shared to receive a compliment or any sympathy. I just hope to raise awareness of the internal, unseen, hidden battles each of us have going on in our lives at one point or another. Each story is unique, but know you are not alone. Surround yourself with people who will only lift you up. I will never be able to fully express my thanks to the people in my life for all the times they've encouraged me without even knowing how badly I needed it. When struggling with something, let it out. Maybe to a pet, a best friend, a parent, a sibling, spouse, mentor, therapist, on a blank sheet of paper, to an empty room, in front of the mirror, or in prayer. Go public with your story, even if it takes a couple weeks or years of editing. Maybe the day of, sharing it verbally, or 10 years later written out. It will help in your healing process, and it may even help in others. I hope that through hearing this story, someone has experienced healing. We all have struggled or are currently struggling with the thought of not being enough for our families, jobs, friends, teammates, employees, clients, or those who look up to us. Just remember, you are important enough to die for, and that's all that matters. I may share my birthday with Rare Disease Day and have a rare skin condition, but I don't let it define me. I'm a chocolate chip cookie in a world full of sugar cookies. If you remember anything from this story, let it be this. You are beautiful. You are loved. You are valued. You are accepted. You are enough. You are a child of the Most High King. If you have a doubt about any of these, feel free to contact me anytime. No matter if we last spoke this morning, in the 90s, or never before. I'm not sure why God chose me. If it was to save one life through these words, then it was worth it.